Thanks for coming. It's a pleasure for me to have such a nice crowd sitting before me. My name is Helge. I'm originally from Germany, but I live in Austria. So if there are any Germans here who talk to me later in German, don't be afraid. Yeah, I'm not Austrian. So, okay. My topic here today is adapting Houdini FX successfully to my pipeline. Why this crazy topic? You have such talented artists slots today here, and I have to confess, sorry guys, I'm not an artist. So you are in the wrong session. No, I'm a trainer and I train 3D and visual effects software now since 18 years because I started professional training in 2000. Before I had my own company, made a little bit of freelancing jobs, and then I said, okay, I want to really go back to my old profession because I've learned educator. So I'm a little bit older than some of you. So when I started with 3D graphics, I was in school with the Commodore 64. I don't know if any people know this computer. And yeah, there was a CAD program on this CAD program, which was named GeigerCAD. And this was the first thing I wanted to do. Wow, you can make graphics. Go row shading was big and small dots on the screen. And yeah, this was my first approach making graphics. And then I really invested much money to buy a PC, 286 processor. And yeah, my first 3D program there was POFRay. Anyone? Remembering POFRay, yeah, you scripted text lines, sphere, and brackets, and the position, and so on. Yeah, this was my start. And because I wanted to do film, but in my time there was no film industry in Germany, I had to learn something, yeah, realistic. And so I went the route first. I make a technical studies first, maths, physics, and electronics. And then I saw, okay, only nerds there. Big Bang Theory, you know these guys. I was at school 3 years, exactly like this. 2 girls in the whole school. You remember that? Oh, yeah. And so I switched completely and I went to education school. And there only were 2 guys on the whole school. So it was really different. And I'm a professional educator then. And so I tried to merge these 2 fields together. And 2000, I really started as a trainer for the stuff I loved. I had the big luck that I worked then 6 years for Adobe Systems as a presenter for After Effects and there wasn't a Creative Cloud or Creative Suite. There were single products they had. And they stuck me into nice partner companies like Alias, for example, where I get Maya Unlimited. Wow, Maya Unlimited had the price of a car, and I had it on my machine. And yeah, it was really fun time to get into the film industry, but from the back door. So this is a little bit about me. I worked 6 years for them. I'm a member still of VITA teams because I love new software, Cinema 4D, Maya, Adobe After Effects, Arnold for Cinema 4D and Maya. I'm still a Maxim lead instructor for Cinema 4D, so I know more than one software. And I worked with a whole bunch of clients. You will hear later a little bit more about this client setup, but many broadcast companies, but also technical companies on the other side, freelancers, artists, from all over the world. And if you look into my trainings portfolio, you see I'm not a really religious guy when it comes to software, because everything I see, I want to try to adapt. I understand this software suits now this purpose. And if you are longer in this field of work, you see software come and goes, and yeah, you have to be flexible in your head. And it's good for you because you are faster in adapting later. I talk a little bit later about learning styles you can do. With my company PixelTrain, I make in-house trainings and training on the job, so I travel a lot. I go to companies in Europe and train them. And it's really nice to jump into a team, train a little bit, and then sometimes I'm happy to jump out of this team or the company because it's really a tough job. And sometimes it's really nice to see other worlds in which people really work. So it's a really interesting job for this time. Also, we make one-to-one coachings in PixelTrain Studio. So if you ever want to visit Austria, you are invited. Come to us to nice Austria. You can have a one-to-one training. Online coachings is something which is really popular in the moment with Skype and Citrix because people want to learn really fast because next week the next job is there and you have to learn really fast a section of a software. So, and tutorials and publications. So, in the last years, I found that we had, as a trainings provider, an incredible increase in Houdini training. Suddenly, everyone wanted to learn Houdini. One thing is, it's recorded, that's, one thing is, it's the price drop. On one thing, now the indie version is really affordable and you can work with it. That's the cool thing. Instead of apprentice, you now really can work productive with the indie version. And that's one reason that Houdini really increased. But also, the companies or the clients I have many new problems now. And this is a small list of the typical things my clients tell me and the most things you know. Photorealism. Today, technical visualization has to be photorealistic. And photorealistic means if you are a film guy, you know these techniques, but I talk about companies who are in broadcast, who are in technical visualization and so on. They aren't professional VFX artists. They come from other fields and suddenly they have to make visual effects shots. And they have to solve them. Also, you know, there's smaller budgets with smaller teams. I have to confess, from my clients, sometimes no team. You are the only person working on the job, and you have to do it. So time frames, increased amount of versions and changes of concept. We all know if you talk to a client, you think the briefing is solid, you make an animatic, the client says, I can't think what this animatic has to do with my job, make a rendering, and then suddenly if you think now you are finished, the client said, oh, it looks nice. I have an idea. Can we? And the problem is the client pays you for this. So you have to be calm and try, okay, I will do it. Yeah, sure. Because you are, sorry guys, not an artist. You have to deliver what the client's vision is. And this is a really strong problem sometimes to be between this. And multi-channel publishing. What I mean with multi-channel publishing is, and also as a freelancer or a generalist, you have the 3D data of the client on your machine. You can make with this 3D data 3D visualizations, you can make animations, but more and more you have to deliver the same content to a game engine and the magic words like VR, AR, and whatever is, you have to deliver this. And so you can make multi-channel publishing, you have more jobs, which you can do, but if you think realistic, it's hard, to make a CAD model which has millions of polygons to bring to a mobile phone. This is the thing where you earn money, if you are able to do that. And these companies who hire me as a trainer have two first ideas. They go. The first idea is, okay, we can outsource this to specialists, to freelancers like you maybe, or to students. That's okay, I know many motivated students, but the problem with this, or for my clients, are other companies are expensive. The first jobs run good, and then suddenly the people are hired from another company, another job comes in or whatever, student has a girlfriend, and now suddenly the job gets unreliable, and later these companies are often the competitor suddenly, because the client said, why do I pay them? Because I know that this guy is making all the stuff. Maybe we can make a shorter way between that. So this is the problem for my clients. So if you outsource something, you are in danger. Or you try to build up an in-house competence. So this means investment of time and money, and I see as a trainer really often the motivation of the guys in the company are sometimes a little bit problematic. So do you really want to learn a new software? It's hard. And some people don't want to do anything outside of their comfort range. And so there are different strategies. These clients now address this. First one is, you are, for example, in Cinema 4D, buy plugins. So this is the first thing. You are a cinema artist, you now can buy plugins for this, for fire, smoke, particles, fluids, terrains, crowds, whatever, or you buy specialized softwares. In the commercial sector, for example, RealFlow is still popular because, it seems easy and it solves the problem, all the fluids in food or whatever. Then we will hear in a moment from a case study view, for world generation or world builder. So these are specialized softwares which are adapted into these companies. But the problem with this is, and these are 4 or 5 rules which you always have to think, also if you are a generalist and you want to buy something. Keep in mind, is a plugin which you buy future-proof? Who's the developer and how's the support? I know many great plugins which were come from the developer who had a problem, he solved it with the plugin, he sells it, and suddenly it vanishes. You can't use it in the next year anymore, and that's the problem. Or you are really in a job and suddenly you see, okay, I need support. And this programmer is sitting on the Bahamas, for example, now. Next thing is maintenance. If you have plugins, you always have the problem. For example, the 3D software gets newer and newer, new updates come out, and the plugin has to go absolutely in the same time frame. And if it doesn't do it, you have a problem. And integration with other softwares and other plugins. Most plugins are like a bubble. So they work great inside of their field, but they can't communicate to the next bubble. And so you have to decide, okay, the fluid I make in this plugin, and then but I have now this, how to connect this with this. Shit. Swear. We cross this out. Exchange with other people is problematic if you use a lot of plugins and so on, because they also have to need plugins. And the most dangerous part is this here, render frames and scalability. You have a great job done. Now you have to scale it, you have to render it. And now you have the problem, you don't find a render farm which is able to render stuff for you because you have used plugins which they don't want to integrate into their pipeline. And for this, Houdini is a solution. And if I'm a marketing guy, I stop at this point. Now you have the message, I go out and get my money. But I'm a trainer, so I hope we can talk a little bit more open about this topic. And I will stop these slideshows later, so don't be afraid that you don't see eye candy later. But I think it's important that you later get this and you can read a little bit about this and think about this. Is Houdini the right tool for you? This is a dangerous question on a Houdini HIVE day. But as a trainer, I have experience with artists who try to adapt Houdini in their pipeline. Houdini is extremely different. So you have to think about, can I adapt to its logic? And you will see the logic is sometimes a little bit different or strange for people. And switching software means, in the first step, losing productivity. And this is something I have in the first phone call with many clients, this discussion. They call me, Helge, I saw on your webpage that you train so many 3D products. We are users of blah, blah. Do we still use the right software? Do we have to switch? I was at a marketing event from blah, 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 and I saw great, great, great. And now we have to change. And I have to tell them, be careful. for example, you as an artist have a level of productivity in the software 60%. Yeah, you are 60% good. As a trainer, if you now book in training or invest your own training, and I don't say that you always have to hire someone, sometimes you can do it. I'll show you later concepts how to do it. You can bring you up to 80% or 85%, 90%. You can bring yourself up in the productivity. But there's a limit somewhere, because the software gives you the limit. Yeah? And if you now switch the software, you throw yourself back to, for example, 20% productivity. Wow, you lose a lot. How long do you need to adapt now to the same level you had before in your old software? My experience as a trainer, and I hope I'm a good trainer, is 1 to 2 years. Yeah, so you have a gap. 1 to 2 years. Say you are a really good one, 1 year. You have 1 year where you have to learn now a new software. And then you are at the same productivity level than you were before. So, brings the new software now enough better solutions, a broader field, get you rid of plugins and so on, that you really say this investment is good for you. Yeah? And for this, I can give you a nice answer, because this is the experience I have. Houdini is not for everyone, but for the most people I see in training, it's good. And you don't have to throw away your software. We will see this in a moment. Houdini is a full-fledged DCC with a photorealistic renderer. Most people start with Houdini only as the plugin replacement for whatever, particles fluid, whatever. But Houdini is a full-fledged 3D program. Yeah, so you get everything first. Then you have to understand that Houdini is not only a software, it's more like an operation system for 3D visual effects and graphics. You can build your own software out of this. It's node-based, and on one side it's a software for 3D creation, but Houdini also is a node-based compositor. So if you can't afford Nuke or whatever, you can start compositing in Houdini. And you get used to the logic, which is node-based compositing, because you do everything procedural and in nodes. So you are in a new field now. Houdini brings a render management. So you can have render management inside of your software now. Chops. Chops is a signal generator. You can animate with signals. Also, you can add your keyboard and play something, and you react on the MIDI signal, but it's a signal generator, and you can use this terrains, crowds, remeshing, topo build, and all this stuff. So Houdini is a whole package, an environment, not only the DCC. And you can extend it with VEX and Python. You will see today great presentations of these two. VEX is normally used for make manipulations on Geo, and Python more for the software, but yeah, this is a more religious topic. Some people say, yeah, why do I use VEX on this side if you can do everything with Python also? But yeah, this is a religious thing. And one thing from my perspective, I love clever software. I don't use ZBrush a lot because I'm not used to work every day in this. So I use 3D code, yeah, because it's easier for me and I can do more. I don't use Premiere or Media Composer anymore because, yeah, they are great, but I need something which is easy and it's clever, and so I use Final Cut. So sometimes you go to the clever way because this is something you can handle and you can do everything which is in your vision, and we are artists, or we want to do something with the software and not be a software nerd. So I think Houdini is exactly at this point. So now I had the problem. These are my, you have done it, the first part of the presentation. Yeah. If you are now at this point, I wanted to have 2 of my clients here sitting with you and talking with you. And I've brought 2 clients with me. I made a short Skype session with them. And one of these clients is Mark. Mark, he will tell you in a moment a little bit about his profession, but Mark is a classic artist who paints oil on canvas. And he was a trainee now for some years. I met him 3 years ago or so, because he wanted to have training for Cinema 4D, View, and Maxwell. And I said, oh, 3 topics? Yeah, he wanted to learn this. And then 1 year later, suddenly he said, yeah, now I want to learn this from you, Helge, and now I want to learn this. And meanwhile, he's a complete Houdini user. And like you hear in a moment, he threw away much software, which he used. And he works in Houdini for his art. And like I've said, I wanted to make an interview with him, and I have this interview with me. And I hope now the technique will do it without problems. So I search for this if I have to mute this.
My name is Mark. I am a 3D artist, but in an actual rather unconventional sense. I don't work for movies. I'm an actual artist in the classical sense. So what I do is I create motifs in 3D and then I paint them classically in oil on canvas. Regarding my background, I actually started as a software developer a long time ago, at the age of 9 with the C64, and I've written a lot of software for the graphics industry, primarily for catalog production, all Java server-side, high availability systems. And then I founded a company called Scoreloop, which turned into the biggest mobile social gaming company, which was then eventually acquired by BlackBerry. And after that, I was a little while with BlackBerry and in venture capital, but I've always been painting oil on canvas forever. And my grandmother was a painter, my uncle is a painter, so that's somewhat in the genes. And I've always been involved in the 3D industry and graphics industry. So or a couple of years ago, actually a lot of years ago, I started to merge those two things together and created a new type of art, which hardly anyone is doing. That means painting in oil, what I do create 3D with 3D software. I've been in 3D computer graphics for quite a while. I think the first software that I started with was Strata Vision. I don't know if ever anyone remembers that, and Infinity, so that the very old Mac softwares. I worked for graphic agencies a long time ago and created images for advertisements with 3D early on, and then I moved on to Cinema 4D. The first version I started with was version 5, I think. Um, and yeah, so, and then obviously with Unity and Scoreloop, with the gaming industry, there was a lot of involvement in that too, where we provide a lot of creative tools for game developers. Um, but now with Houdini, actually, I found the biggest, yeah, step, the biggest improvement of over the last 20 years, I'd say, because it's this fundamental shift from working as a sculptor, which you do with most of the 3D applications, to the using algorithms or node-based systems in this case to let you create your motifs, your scenes, your entire worlds. And that's a fundamental shift. I'm super excited by that and got totally fond of that, maybe because of the software development background. Oh, actually, yeah, it reminds me of the good old days in Povray, where I created one of the cover arts for that long time ago, where you were only able to program. There was no visual editor to work with. So this whole approach of using software or nodes and algorithms to create 3D scenes has been in my mind for decades already. And only now with Houdini, or with Houdini as an environment, I see it fully come to life. I'm super excited about this step towards Houdini, which I did from Cinema 4D to Houdini. I would say I'm very much of a software nerd. I, I still write a number of algorithms myself that I use here in my environment. I love that I have to do that. But just as well, I'm deep into arts and art history, and have a lot of references in my works to earlier times like the Renaissance, the Baroque, like Baroque, very interesting period. By the way, one of the first 3D artists came out of the Baroque with the merging of sculpture and paintings and everything. So very interesting topics in that context as well. So I would really say I'm both. I'm a software nerd, yes, fully subscribed to that, but I'm just as well deeply into arts, and merging those two, there are so many overlaps. It's just very interesting. Initially, I started using Houdini for special effects, like very simple things, just simple things like clouds. And when I first started and came to see it, it already made so much sense to me how it is built up from how it is built from the ground up. So I always had that in mind. Oh, I want to switch over to Houdini. And after my last series of works, which I used Cinema 4D, Marvelous Designer, and a couple of other tools for in the pipeline, I thought the next series is going to be all around algorithmic art, let's put it that way. And that's where I switched over to Houdini entirely. And I thought I switch over and I do a couple of images, which I paint then, and then use Cinema 4D back and forth. But actually, I haven't used Cinema 4D since that point on anymore. It just made so much sense. Everything was where I thought it would be, where it makes sense. Just simply the fact that it's non-destructive. You build a tree, you have nodes, you don't touch anything really. You program it. You can change any point in all of the tree and take a branch out of that and get to a completely different aesthetic. That's just so fascinating, and I haven't felt the urge to switch to any other application anymore. It just took me, yeah, very few weeks, let's put it that way. Not months, just a few weeks, more than days, but very few weeks to finish the first motifs in a way that I haven't thought of initially. And it has taken me to a new aesthetic that's built around the possibilities that I finally found in Houdini. It sounds strange, but maybe it's because of the software development background. I actually wouldn't say there were problems, and actually the whole concept made a lot more sense to me than traditional environments. It was just getting into some deeper notions of simulations and .NETs and how they really work aside from what you see on tutorials on YouTube. So to really understand how things are meant to be. But it's just you have to listen to someone who knows it, and who knows the background, and it's not just focused on one simple effect, but can teach you a little bit of the basic understanding behind it, so you really get the full picture, and that really sparks all the creativity. I see a lot of things on Instagram, which sparks interest in how that's been done, and then I look up YouTube videos. I work with you, Helge, to learn more on how to approach that. But the basic understanding and the tip that helped me a lot, or that I always think about, is you don't touch things anymore. You have algorithms and nodes that do things for you, and you have to understand how things are being constructed and where in the whole data flow, like in a database, where things happen and where to add another node that's a little helper that does something for you. So you don't think as a sculptor anymore, but you think as writing software, writing an application, and that feels very natural to me. I actually got rid of a number of other applications which I used before. I even now use Mantra. I was totally into Arnold. I'm not, although it would work, but I'm not even using Arnold anymore because I don't need it. Yeah, everything's there. Everything that I need is just there. So I'm really entirely working with Houdini.
Okay. Okay. The monitor is a little bit a problem, but yeah, you figured it out. So this is Mark. Thanks for the attention that you really, I know that's not so easy to follow this, but I think it's really important to see that he, as a traditional artist, was able to adapt this software. And you see, like I've told you, the most people start with visual effects and then suddenly they see hey, they can go broader and broader in this field. And yeah, this is something which you can keep in mind if you are more the artist at this point. You can see his work on this web page, mark/gumpinger.com, and he has really great exhibits in New York and so on. You really can see that he's really using this a lot. This here is a absolutely different approach. So, like I've said, I don't work only with single persons or artists. I also work with boutiques, broadcast companies, agencies, and so on. And also they ask me for adapting Houdini into their pipeline. And one of the most important things I can tell them is you can get rid of so many plugins and tools you have around this. We've talked about these problems. Because Houdini has such great production proven field where you can go into and add this stuff to your projects. And the most important thing I always hear, is simulations can interact with each other. The problem of most plugins is they are, like I said, a bubble. You can't interconnect this stuff. And if you have to change something, you really have to think about at what point in the whole production you have to change, and then you throw away everything which is behind this. And so interaction between simulations is extremely useful. But if you then go deeper, like Mark said, if you are modeling in this way, you suddenly see, okay, it makes also sense in modeling. That you can try something, you can branch out something, try it, and you come to a different result, or branch it out there, and you don't lose your work anymore. You can be faster in your project because you can iterate faster, and suddenly, like he has experienced it, suddenly modeling, shading, and rendering is also adapted. So the first step is mostly the visual effects, and then suddenly the people say, wow, this other approach is making sense for me. And the most fear question, or the biggest fear question I heard from many agencies and so on is, how do we integrate Houdini into our pipeline? Is it possible? Because if I throw away now my Maya, my Cinema, my Max, or whatever Modo they use, we are at the 20% level, like I've said. How do we come around this 1 year of learning? And this here is a part of a project I show you at the second case study, which is a classical agency in Switzerland. And you have integrations with Houdini with OBJ, FBX, Alembic, and OpenVDB. So you can use that. And the great thing is, it's not an import. So I import an OBJ and now I do something and write something out. No. Also, the import in Houdini is procedural. So you are still connected to a file which is on the HUD drive or on the server. And if someone changes this OBJ, this FBX, or something else, your whole tree still works. It's not an import. It's like a connection, an alias which you have to a file which is made from another artist, another department, or yourself, but you know your client will change it. And so you have a different kind of work. And you also have Houdini Engine. We have today a slot here for Houdini Engine, which is really interesting, so that you can say, okay, I make Houdini only as a tool builder. I build a tool and I integrate it into my existing DCC. And this is the helper for the gap, which I told you how to learn from this. So this is my second case study. This is Bokishera. It's an agency from Switzerland, and I know them for 10 years now or so. They started 10 years ago with 3D. Before they made print and retouching, catalogs and all this for high-end clients. And then I had their first 3D training 10 years ago, and then they evolved more and more. And now they are at the point where they do advertising also, they do web, they do social media, they do 360, and so on. And we had a training on the job like I've said, something I do a lot. So they wanted to do a Emmy shot for this can here inside of Houdini now. Instead of doing the classic Cinema 4D way. And we tried all this, which we have talked about. So I hope you find this interesting. And after that, I will give you a whole bunch of tips which you can use for better learning. I hope I have time, but it seems so.
Müde? Emmy Kaffee Latte Extra Shot. Hol dir den intensiven Koffeinkick.
We're a small studio located in the middle of Switzerland, and we're working mostly for luxury clients, food, industry, a lot of visualizations, a lot of products visualizations, and videos, animated pictures.
My work consists mainly of CG. I work often in cinema and now with Houdini too. Sometimes I edit, or mostly I edit and retouch the stills by myself after the rendering. Most of the products that we visualize are products like bottles or
food pack shops, yeah. and now it's getting more fancy with explosions and smoke and stuff, and that's where we had our plot problems with Cinema 4D, and so we needed another tool to integrate in the pipeline. We're working. Well, we used to work with a lot of stuff. We're working with Keyshot when it comes to just plain and simple CAD files or visualizations, mostly in for the industrial clients. And as soon as it gets more creative, we need to work with a tool that can do a lot. So we're working with Cinema 4D. We used to work with VU when we needed to build landscapes, but now it seems that Houdini can do that too. So we don't need to work in VU anymore.
In cinema, when you get more and more complicated things like explosions or something with many objects, and you have to react to the wishes of the client. We have to react in small time, and we need a quick feedback, and that's where Houdini is more powerful, I think, especially in the project that we are talking about later.
This is a huge thing, actually, because you have a lot of wishes from the clients where he asks you to change something from beginning, or from something completely different, and then you actually with usual tools like cinema, you start from scratch again. And with Houdini, you have the possibility to change within the project. You just change little things and have a huge impact in the project. And that was actually the main thing. Plus, the boundaries are bigger in Houdini than it is in cinema or other 3D programs. We were asked to do a television ad for a product. We used to do the last a TV ad for the client in 2017, and it was a similar ad. It's about a can. Well, it's a drink. It's an energy drink, a coffee energy drink for Emmy, one of the biggest milk and cheese drink producer in Switzerland. and they asked us to produce the TV ad, and so we decided to do the new project in Houdini. Well, we did it actually. We rented it in Cinema 4D, did the whole setup. The look def we did in a cinema, but we did all the animations, the particle animations with the ice and with the coffee beans and stuff. We did everything in Houdini. So we just started, and we did it the same like with other tools. We watched tutorials, and we tried, and we failed. And then we tried again. We watched more tutorials, and we failed again. And that was the point where before we started with the second TV ad, we decided to ask you, Helge, to come and train us in Houdini. I do think you have to, you first have to understand how Houdini works. And Houdini works so completely different than other tools. You actually have to forget a lot, from other tools in order to start like a blank sheet of paper with Houdini. And that was really helpful to have someone explaining to you the basics of Houdini. That was really helpful. We're planning doing a lot more in Houdini. I do think this is really the future. We have to do the next project with Houdini. We have to do exactly the same like we did the last one. And it's fun. It's not about that. It gets easier and easier, and it gets better. I do think we will use it again, and we'll integrate it in our pipeline. The big advantage of Houdini, I do think, is that it's not just a tool. It's actually a system. I think when you have a big project or a client who asks for a lot of material, for example, you have an industry client and he has a lot of products and he asks you to visualize them, making still images or even animations of it. In Houdini, you can build a setup rather than just visualize and do it all over again and all over again. You can really build a setup which helps you the next time, saving time and money and making sure everything looks the same. That's one thing. The other thing is of course in simulations, like particle simulations, water, smoke, you name it. The field is open, and it gets more and more. I heard of people animating completely in Houdini, which I do think is great. Even in modeling, working in modeling in Cinema 4D, meaning you actually destroy a lot of your work, even though it's not bad. But in Houdini, you have the chance to build a model from scratch and go back and forth without destroying any of your model. And that's where I see the advantages.
Okay. So after you have seen now these two clients, I want to take the last 10 minutes or so we have to talk about learning. I know that not everyone here is able to hire a trainer or go to full-time school or so, but I want to give you some advice from my perspective as a trainer, how to do it, how to start it, because you hear these two statements, two different kind of case studies where people really come now to Houdini and they have done their work really good in other tools. But they want now to widen their field. And so, yeah, maybe you are at the same point, or you have around a team which is at the same point. And so an experience for me as a trainer, and I have to tell you, don't understand this wrong. The most clients I have in the first Houdini session are tutorialized. Do you understand what I mean with this, tutorialized? They used to watch hundreds of tutorials. Like Mark said, like Markus said, yeah, we have watched tutorials, and we tried and we failed. And we do it again. And yeah, and the problem for me as a trainer is these people here know a whole bunch of fancy effects. They know the great stuff Moritz and Manuel do with Entagma. They know so many cool effects. Yeah, but if you are now in a production, you have to do your first can shot. Yeah, and say, do this. Can, crush the eyes, beans, nothing fancy for a really Houdini artist. They say, maybe I find a tutorial for this? Yeah, you understand the problem. This gap is really a problem. And so they are not able to deliver a simple project. And this is something I always hear on FMX, for example, from recruiters. They say, Helge, bring me someone who understands Houdini and not plays tutorials. Yeah, so the reel is full of tutorial outputs. Yeah, Entagma does something with signed distance fields outlining objects. Instagram is full of objects with outlines. Great, thank you. Yeah, that's cool. Try to learn it, but yeah, don't copy it. They don't want to learn because they are used to these fancy outputs. They don't want to learn the fundamentals anymore. Helge, don't explain me something about this project structure and I know what an attribute is, I can wax it. No, they don't understand why an attribute's there and what you have to do with this, why you use an attribute. They never learned the Houdini workflow, these people who start with me. File structure, caching strategies, how to really make caches if it's really in a production. Yeah, how to versionize them. Yeah, they have absolute names and suddenly they have 3-4 caches and they don't understand anymore how to work with the caches because my client wants to go back to the cache 2 versions ago. And yeah, this is production problems. And this is something you have to learn. Naming with variables instead of really naming. Take system. Have you ever worked with the take system inside of Houdini? Yeah, to have a simulation in a draft or in a final mode, and you switch back and forth to prototype on one side, and then you go back into the really hot side where you have to come back tomorrow, yeah, while simulating. Yeah, and they never get used to the new paradigms which are in Houdini, and so, like Markus said. Some things you have to relearn. This is a terrible slide, I know. Too much stuff on it. But I hope this is captured and you can get the PDF from this. For me, if you want now to learn, you don't have the money for a film school, or you have a job and now you want to learn Houdini. First thing I can advise you, look for the right source of learning. The right source. What is the right source? Many tutorials which you find on the internet are made by beginners. That means they have not the experience how the stuff comes together. Yes, they do one effect, which they have learned. On the other side, we have artist tutorials. If Simon comes to a stage and shows something of his infection systems, I know everyone is, yeah, infection systems. And he can tell you how to do it. But the problem with this is they have excellent results, but they can't often discuss the techniques around this because they want to show you how they do this. But you have to understand the context in which it lives. And many artists are now professional teachers. This is something, yeah, I've learned education, for example, and many more people who work in big companies are also making training in education so that they can teach people. For example, you have to learn principles of teaching. You have to learn how to explain a system and how a didactic structure for learning steps work. This is something you also have to learn. Yeah, so if you try to learn something, and this is something you have to look out. So is the tutorial nice from the result, or does it also explain you something so that you can learn with this? And another thing I tell the people a lot, if you want to buy something, because we want to do something, look out for workflow courses so that you understand how everything comes together. Not the fancy effect, this is nice, if you have 2 hours, make a fancy effect, but look out for workflow tutorials. I found some, this is a really small list, these 3 dots are important, yeah? No one, for example, Stephen Nippling is making great stuff, the crowds here from Mikhail, Joy of Wax and the CG Wicked by Matt Estella is extremely great. Rohan is making things, Anastasia, you see a whole list. So try to find workflow, yeah, not only fancy effect. Then your next step is you have to build your own curriculum. If you are your own trainer, you have to make your curriculum now. So how to do that? Always try to find a defined objective. Don't be in the flow and play mode. Ah, it's nice, now I go to Instagram with this. No. Try to solve something. So, how to find something, what you can solve. I tell the people, try to copy something from another 3D application. For example, if you now want to learn modeling in Houdini, look into a modeling tutorial from Maya. You have then the result, which the artist has. You have an idea how to come to this, and you try to do this, but with the Houdini workflow. And then you have the documentation open, you have your Google open or whatever. Try to solve the problem which this artist had in the other software. So your brain gets flexible. Yeah? You have a defined objective you want to go. So the next thing is try finished jobs and rebuild it in Houdini. So if you have done a Cinema 4D job or Maya job, you have time, do exactly the same job. You have the objective, do it in Houdini now. Try it. Try to solve it. And then the right questions come to your mind, and then you can Google it or ask someone how to do this. I haven't found something for this. Yeah, then you have the right questions. And push yourself always a little bit farther. If you only do the things you know, small fancy effect, you will never learn something. Yeah, push yourself. And after a project, and this is also important, I know this from agencies, after a project, use the recap phase. Try to find what were the problems, identify them, and yeah, try really to find something which you want to learn. Then, I learn now for over 20 years, every day. Yeah? Because, yeah, that's my job. As a trainer, I always have to learn. And I can tell you, your brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the faster you are able to adapt stuff. So do it every day. Make it to your daily or weekly practice. I'm not so, I really learn daily. Because I travel a lot, and in the evening in the hotel room, what are you doing? After 20 years, every city looks absolutely the same. So, yeah, I don't watch TV, for example. I always have tutorials on my laptop, and I watch for 2 hours something, or I work on something in my curriculum all the time. This is a practice you can do if you travel a lot. Yeah, so do it there. Or what I find really useful is weekly practice. So if you say, okay, on Friday in the afternoon, the week is gone, yeah, the random farm is stuck, so you have time. Yeah, this is my time. So instead of 1 hour a day, try to find your space in the week where you can say, yeah, I have something. And that you have something is the last point. Collect informations and catalog them. But I come to this in a moment. Focus versus distraction. The funny thing is, people say, yeah, I have to now learn Pyro. Because, yeah, I always wanted to learn Pyro. That's good. And everyone says you have to focus, yeah? The good warrior is always focusing. The problem with me, I have to confess, I'm not good in focusing. Yeah, I'm always distracted. And one tip I can give you is only learn one thing at a time, yeah? Don't learn everything, it doesn't work, yeah, because your brain is not able to do this. But go, if it's possible, yeah, if not tomorrow you have a deadline, yeah? So this is an exception, but always go with your current interest and impulse. Yeah, so if you know now that you wanted in your curriculum to learn Pyro, but today is the day where you have the feeling, boy, I'm so interested in doing this here. Don't try to fight this fight. You learn much faster if you are motivated to do something. So, if you are able, switch it. And you will have such fun in learning this, and you learn much, much faster. Document your process, daily copies and eye candy for Instagram. This was the idea behind Bibeling. Yeah, Bibel, you know Bibel. But the problem is, Bibel doesn't want to do that everyone copies and tag my effects every day and post them on Instagram. This is not process. Yeah, this is eye candy and followers. Yeah, so please document and post it if you have done something. And this is cool. So bring yourself and collect. Like I've said, this has something to do with focus and distraction. If I find something in the internet, a cool tutorial or something, and I know I'm in the moment at the other process, do something like that. Use Evernote, Web Clipper, for example. Download it into your Evernote. You can watch it at the airport or somewhere else. Or use, I don't know if we are allowed to say, use a YouTube downloader or something like that. Yeah? And download the tutorial and make a catalog of this. Yeah? Make a big catalog. Yeah, that's important. 1 minute? It's the last one. 1 minute. Yeah. Then how to watch a tutorial. This is important. I know that many people are extremely stressed by watching tutorials. I don't know if you tried it. You tried to make a tutorial and suddenly you are so stressed and you are gone distracted. Why? Because the people do it wrong. Watch it the first time without your computer, without your mouse or pen. Watch it only with your notepad. And understand the structure, what the guy is doing there. Yeah, understand. And if you like, make some notice of values he puts in, but don't touch the computer, no computer. Second time, now build it. And you know the whole structure, so it's much easier and you have your values. And the third time, don't watch the tutorial anymore, do something yourself. So I have to finish, otherwise we have a problem here with the agenda. I'm here for the full day. If you want to get in contact with me for coachings, or you have questions, or you want to talk about coffee or visiting Austria, here's my web address, PixelTrain.de, but you can switch to English. I'm really happy if I hear something from you. Yeah, have fun. Thanks for your attention. Bye.